On the top lane, they're going to go straight in for this one. Shook going straight to the front. There's the ultimate. Going to go towards Candy Panda down to half. This is going to be the tower.
Tower goes down. Freddy Mega focused on his big tanky target right now. They're going to lock up onto Nif. But look at that. They just can't even take down the support. Explosive satchel, everything thrown towards Nif. And he just tanked through the whole lot. As Svenskeren piling on towards him, he just strolls away. No problem there. Alliance are way ahead of SK. And they can't even take down with a focused target on that support.
And they're going to keep trying to break through this one as well and just wait for a solid knockup, and they could end up diving straight onto this one. And Rated going to go a little bit lower from that. Freddy still a half HP. Wicked not too scared of either of them. And look at Alliance, they're tanking on for the damage. Going to sit in there. Froggen did actually flash away from that one, but Freddy now going to be focused. The inhibitor is going to go down. Jesus off to the side. Last seconds on his hourglass, but the Culling already running. That will get them the first. The rest of SK here though going to be ripped to pieces. Candy Panda just about gets onto the fountain at the end. Well, that is a 3-0, and surely the game for Alliance.
Absolutely fantastic performance, solid play from Alliance. They continue to hold top of the table. 9 wins and 2 losses now. Alliance take down SK game.
Really solid performance out of Alliance, and there was a lot of faith from you guys at home. We saw the LoL Esports vote earlier on, 77% I believe it was, and Alliance coming flying out the gate, starting with Froggen having such a solid early game. Jesus was dominated, to be frank, in that mid lane. Funnily enough, the CS by the end was around the same kind of totals that he was behind from that one before, but Alliance here showing that, alright, they lost out to Gambit last week, then they got that win, that base race win against Fnatic to kind of get them back on the horse and ensure that there was no mini slump to follow the disappointment of losing your 7-1 record. And they come back into today, taking down what is their biggest competition in the LCS right now.
Yeah, the start of a new win streak maybe. 2 wins now for Alliance. We'll see how far that can go, because overall, I mean, everybody played well. You know, Wicked was taken out of the game quite heavily. SK clearly targeted that focus to maybe put him on his back foot, but he held his ground, didn't get caught out, didn't get any sloppy plays. He escaped a couple of times. We saw Freddy doing the same thing as well. A lot of focus on the 2 top laners at the start, and clearly it was all about the mid lane in the end of the day, because solid performance by Froggen, way ahead of Jesus, 3 levels ahead of Jesus at sometimes in that game.
Well, we picked the featured matchup for the mid lane for a reason on this one, and we talked about Froggen. If you want to beat Alliance, you're going to have to shut Froggen down. Fact is, he was starting to run Rampage and dominate Jesus in the early stages. Okay, Jesus got, I don't want to say unlucky, because it was a well-crafted first blood from Alliance that, you know, swept them around the back. They were able to control him. He didn't even have time to flash away from that mid lane before he went down. And overall domination, but you rightly pointed out, across the board, Nif didn't die once, okay, no kills, but 11 assists by the end from the 15 kills that Alliance got overall. 7 kills on Froggen, 4 on Shook. There were 3 on Tabs as well. Overall, blanket good performance from Alliance.
And I also want to question, because a lot of the times SK will first pick Lee Sin. 4-0-10 for Shook on Lee Sin. Played brilliantly, fantastic stuff. You got to wonder why they let that one through. Maybe they're going to question it themselves. Who knows? The Jax also got through. A lot of choices that SK could have gone with, clearly worked out for Alliance. Yeah. For now, though, we are going to head over to the main stage where Shox is standing by with the man in the mid lane, Froggen.
Thank you very much, D-Man. Indeed, the man in the mid lane, Froggen. Receiver of a great applause here already. You can talk to them in a second. Let's talk about the game for a second. You know what? You can talk to them now. Let's start with how awesome it must be. I mean, you've been around the world. You've been in so many awesome places, but this crowd is giving you a warm welcome once again.
Yeah, it's really awesome. It's my first time I'm at a UK event, so it's really loud and it's awesome.
I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. Of course, we had the crowd over in Paris. Now we have the crowd over in London. What are you thinking?
I think it's pretty even right now. oh, okay. Then show me what you got. Come on. Okay.
Well, they showed us what they've got, and you've also showed us what you've got versus SK Gaming. Great game from you guys. Talk us through the match in general. It seemed like you got all the picks you wanted because you picked them in the right order as well. It was very simple.
Yeah, we pretty much predicted every single pick they did, and it was very straightforward for us. They didn't try to contest anything we wanted in our comp. we played out the early game perfectly. We just tried to get fed. Like, if 6 doesn't get fed, then I get fed. We will auto win the game. And that's just how it happened with the early dive. They lost all the control, and we got all the objectives in the game.
Yeah, you talked to me about that early game, and obviously last week's fantastic game versus Fnatic. We saw in the feature, we were struggling actually a little bit in the early game. How have you tried to train on that specifically in this week?
It's more the decision making we have as a team and what we want to do in the early game. We are getting all that sorted out before the game starts, and we just try to, okay, we need to focus on this, we need to focus on this. If their team, they will try to do this with their team comp and all that kind of thing, so we can predict what they do compared to what we do and make up a great plan.
And you guys were absolutely explosive in this game once again. One final time, is there anything you want to say to everybody here? Everybody watching at home and supporting you guys for a long time now.
Yeah, thanks to all the fans, obviously, and to the amazing crowd.
Well, Froggen, thank you very much as well.
Okay, thank you.
Well, as the crowd is chanting Froggen, we are going to go over to the analyst desk where Trevor and the Fischer are standing by.
Welcome back, guys, and thank you for that game. It was phenomenal. Froggen very confident, talking about he predicted all the picks and bans, predicted the playstyle of SK Gaming. Picks and bans caught me a little off guard. I wasn't anticipating the Orianna ban. You know, so Jezz has played it frequently in the past, but definitely a champion they didn't want to deal with.
So I think it was more to take a comfort pick away from Jezz and also a very strong laner, especially if they wanted to play Yasuo here, take away the Orianna, don't want to deal with it. The weird thing for me was more the Nidalee ban from SK Gaming, especially because they have shown they can play the counters to it, so why do you actually take it away? And also here, in most cases, I mean, okay, sure, Alliance could have last pick Nidalee, but SK should have expected it, and I don't think they should have banned it.
Yeah, so interesting picks and ban phase. Alliance put together a composition that had a lot of split push elements with both Jax and Yasuo, and when Froggen plays Yasuo, he does tend to play that split push role as well as the assassin. The early game was all about Alliance. They had a great tower dive early on. They had complete dragon control, and there was absolutely nothing that SK could do to stop them.
Also because SK Gaming, they've shown in the past, when they played against Fnatic, actually, where Fnatic had a pick comp, SK, they play very passive. They wait for the enemy team to make a move and try to then punish them for it and therefore win the game. This time around, Alliance didn't do too many mistakes in the early game, which meant all the picks they could actually get here got them ahead early on, and they got all the objectives. Of course, even our very first replay, we can just pull it up on the screen, is actually where Alliance managed to get a pick here and therefore use it to get objectives.
Yeah, so this particular clip, we can just roll this one straight out. It was really the start of Shook and Froggen grouping up and working together to find kills. The thing that I like about Froggen is he doesn't hesitate to use this last breath, instantly throwing himself onto Svenskeren, and it was just well executed by Alliance.
And even also the fact they predict Svenskeren actually to be here, because if you look down the bottom lane at the moment, there's a very big wave pushing up to the tower. So they expect the Svenskeren to be there to try and dive onto whoever from Alliance was going to take this wave, and therefore they just move in, multiple members, find him, pick up a kill, pick up a second one, and take a dragon.
The thing that was interesting about Alliance in this game is they did play fairly slowly, but they were always in control. It felt like every move they made was very calculated. And you did say there's not many mistakes. It is very difficult to find faults in Alliance's game plan.
And one thing I really like about Alliance in this game here, you talked about how they had a comp that could pick up targets. They actually decided to build more for teamfights because they got so far ahead. You saw Froggen, he built Banshee's Veil very early on instead of building Infinity Edge as the third item. Wicked as well, he didn't complete Trinity Force, he went Blade into tank simply on Jax here, so they put so much focus on being able to survive teamfights because they were ahead. So when you build defensive items and you are already in front, it just becomes so hard for the other team to kill you and win fights.
Well, talking about those team fights, the next big team fight that we want to highlight, if we can pull that up onto your screens, it was a match that, battle that determined the second Baron of the game, if memory serves. Let's just roll this clip out. And even though Tabs goes a little ham, maybe going a bit excited, it gets turned around very well by Alliance. Wicked goes low, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter. So Nif, first of all, he doesn't have ult this fight. It's normally the ult they use to set it up, so Froggen has to do it by himself. Gets the knockup on multiple members, goes in here, and from now on, because once again Froggen hits 5 members on his knockup, SK Gaming Alliance are just stronger in these fights. Again, look at the gold on the top of your screen. They're 10,000 gold ahead as well.
And this isn't the first team fight that we've seen SK on the full retreat, scattering, like spreading to the wind and just getting shut down and chased by the superior mobility of Alliance. It really felt like Alliance was doing everything right, and SK was really struggling to interrupt their game plan.
They played too passive, in my opinion. They were waiting for Alliance to make moves, and when you have Lee Sin when you have Yasuo. I mean, it's so easy to set them. Of course, Nif and Gragas as well. We had this roaming squad going around finding picks here, and it simply meant Alliance, as you also said earlier, they got all the objectives. It was so easy for them to pick up Barons and Dragons.
Well, very quick thought before we move on. Alliance very clearly moving away from the pack. SK are faltering in recent weeks. Should we be worried?
I don't think so. Well, in case for SK, I still see them as one of the top teams in Europe because the teams under them at the moment, they have no issue surviving the early game and get to this mid-late game point where they are very strong. But when they play Alliance, and when they're going to play even stronger teams, they have issues and they need to fix this early game.
Well, we'll need to see if they can do that. We need to take a very quick break, and when we return, the Super Hot crew will take on the Copenhagen Wolves as the LCS action continues from Wembley Arena here in London.
More Alliance fans here than there is SK fans.
Why, Philly?
Why
would you say something like that?
We have a Brit.
Yeah, we have a Brit.
Doesn't matter.
Everyone knows he's British.
Everyone thinks I'm French.
The culling being used as well. There's no smite available. Finally, Shook goes in. He gets the smite down. Svenskern's going to get jumped off. Wicked gets the kill on towards him. County Banner focused. He goes down. Shook on towards him as well. And Rated now focused down. Another kill for Alliance comes in.
I'm out. I will kick. I'm dead. Kite backwards. Kite all the time. We can turn soon. Yeah. I have to be careful. Just kill them all. I'm over here.
Don't chase too much. We can go Nash as well. Let's go Nash after Prom.
Go Nash.
Jesus off to the side. Last seconds on his hourglass, but the culling already running. That will get them the first. The rest of SK here, though, going to be ripped to pieces. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm joined here by Martin Deficio looking for our second LCS game of the day as the Super Hot Crew take on the Copenhagen Wolves. Now, last week didn't go to plan for the Super Hot Crew as they lost out in both games to both Millennium and Roccat.
And it was a bit of a weird week for Super Hot Crew because they had absolutely no pressure on the map. And once you lose the pressure, you lose all the objectives. And it was the story for them in the last week. And they really had very, very big issues against Millennium and the pick comp. We had Curb on Twisted Fate, just going left and right, picking up kills. And Super Hot Crew never knew when to group up and when to actually split up here and get some farms. So they definitely had a few things to sort before coming into this week.
Yeah, and we also have to point out that since We5D1 will unfortunately miss the weekend's games due to school exams with the team, and they're of course going to be playing with a substitute here, Yero.
So Yero, he played with Steve Bakes Cookies in the Challenger Series. And he's actually a support with very good mechanics. In the Challenger Series, he used Cillian, Thresh, Annie, and Lulu in his 4 games played. And of course, he also played with Impaler on Dignitas UK. So there's some synergy, and Impaler will know which kind of type he is and if he would fit with the team or not.
I also have to say, and be the bearer of bad news almost, things for the Copenhagen Wolves aren't really looking that much better. Last week saw them forfeit their first game against Roccat because Coutard was ill. They managed then to get Mazarine ready to take on SK Gaming on day 2, but they were unable to pick any points there as well.
And it was a bit weird because Copenhagen Wolves, after the game against SK, went on Twitter and said, you know what, we never really expected to win this game against SK because we played with a sub. And that's all right, I mean, but it was just too obvious in the game because they never really did anything. They just fell behind. It was easy for SK to close out the game as well. Definitely some issues. We have to say, though, Coutard is back now. He was, of course, out in the last week. Should help the team. Some good synergy with him. And, of course, Airwax, also Youngbuck up in his top lane here. And he definitely needs to come in and show that he can carry or help out carrying his team.
And while we're on the topic of Airwax, he's now played 4 weeks of the LCS. So what do we think of his performance in these last 4 weeks?
Well, if you look at just the stats, they are great for Airwax. I mean, he has 31 kills. That's the most for the junglers in Europe. He's also been part of 81.6% of the kills for Copenhagen Wolves, which is the second best in the entire EUCS. His Evelyn has been great, picked up 20 kills on it, died 16 times though, a bit too much. However, still he's part of 85% of the kills on Evelyn here for the entire team. We have to, of course, say some of his kills, I mean, he picked up 11 of the kills against Roccat in week 2 in what we could call a bit of a stomp for Copenhagen Wolves. And we just also have to say, he dies way too often. I mean, he's tied in the EUCS for most deaths with Darien, the Swag Lord. 45 deaths. That's a lot.
That is a lot of deaths, something that they'll want to fix going forward. Mimer actually believes that the Copenhagen Wolves losing their playmakers will have a big impact on this game, although with a sub in for We5D1, it might affect his team as well. Meanwhile, Impaler feels the pride and pressure in playing for a hometown crowd.
I think Copenhagen Wolves will be a fairly similar game to what it's always been. It's just going to be scrappy early, and then whoever comes out ahead should generally win.
We need to start playing better in the early game because we keep falling behind, which shouldn't happen. We give up a lot of objectives for free, like dragons, so yeah, we have to work on that.
Sometimes we're not very decisive towards the end game, so provided we can just shut out Baron control and then force them to come and fight us, then that's how you generally win the long games.
They lost their playmakers when Forgiven and Amazing left, so I think now they have kind of issues making play. Like, they don't really do much.
Amazing and Forgiven were the carries and playmakers, and right now they need to adjust to the old guys having to make a little bit more plays, and they have to carry a little bit more.
They may have an advantage of the 6th man in the case of having a crowd behind them, but it shouldn't make a big difference.
I don't know, it's a blessing and a curse to have so many people there for you because, yeah, sure, if we're going to do well, it'll be amazing, but if we do bad, I think I'm going to cry.
No pressure Impaler whatsoever. Honestly, no pressure whatsoever.
Don't cry, please. Don't cry.
No crying allowed. Nothing to go that far. Guys, we're going to check out the starting lineups of this game, starting with the blue side and the Super Hot Crew. They're, of course, Mimer in the top lane, Impaler in the jungle, Selfie in the mid lane, Mr. Rals, the AD carry, and Yero, the substitute support here this weekend.
And on the red side, we have Copenhagen Wolves. Youngbuck is in the top lane, Airwax in the jungle, Coutard as the mid laner, Woolite on AD carry, and of course Unlimited, his support.
So teams are about to head into Champion Select, so let's check out your votes from LOLesports.com. According to those ballots, you've picked the Super Hot Crew by 79%. And Fact is, the Super Hot crew on a bit of a downturn, I think we can safely say. Added pressure of not playing with their full lineup. And it's funny to hear the Super Hot crew saying the Wolves lost their playmakers after the spring split here. Funnily enough, We Will Failure has been making a lot of plays for the Super Hot crew so 100%.
Far. And Mixer did the same thing last bit. They really like to have the support on champions where they can engage, set up kills for Mr. Rales or Selfie when he roams down towards the bot lane. So of course there's going to be an issue for them. However, Yero, I actually think he's going to do well. As long as his nerves won't get in the way in front of the massive crowd, of course. I mean, probably his first time on stage in front of a crowd like this.
And what a crowd it has been so far. Nice and loud. I think they could be a little bit louder though. Oh, we got the air horns in here now as well, so we'll see how that one all goes for us. But as you rightly mentioned here, Yero coming in as a support, big shoes to fill. First time on stage, probably not the easiest stage to come into for the first time. How hard is it as a player in your first massive event?
Well, first of all, once you actually sit down and do your warm-up, where you sit in a custom game, you'll do a few last hits, maybe you do one-on-one against your AD carry, try and kill him a few times because why not? You kind of start to get nervous. Once you get into champ select, at least for me, I just sat there like, okay, full focus, no jokes, nothing, just calm your nerves. And once the game actually starts, first 5 minutes are horrible. Once the 5 minutes are done, you just feel perfect and you just play out. Unless, of course, you die in the first 5 minutes.
Which happened to Deficio.
Never.
Quite a few times, let's call it that one. Let's hope Yero has a more successful time here on stage than our good friend Deficio has had in the past. But we're moving towards Champion Select here, so enough of the Deficio abuse. Let's talk about what we can expect in this game.
So Copenhagen Wolves keep talking about how picks and bans are an issue for them. We even have Unlimited last week mentioning how there's so many champions they don't know how to play against, they need to ban them away. Last week they banned Kassadin on blue side. Normally you never see Kassadin being banned on blue side, it's always purple side because you don't want to risk the other team first picking it. Yet they banned it away. So it seems to me, unless Copenhagen Wolves have fixed this picks and bans, they could just be in for trouble again and end up getting a worse comp compared to what a Subaru can pick up. Because we know Subaru play a lot of the strong champions.
Well, we are going to be moving into Champion Select here. We'll figure out exactly what both teams are going to be banning out first of all, and then moving into their lineups for the picks. First two bans out the gate. Ziggs taken away from Kaltard, and a red side casting ban. Doesn't get much more standard than that.
No, and I like their Ziggs ban here against Kaltard. Just came back, of course, was out last week. Want to target his most comfortable champion here, and of course the champion Copenhagen was love to play because you can extend the game and just play safe and farm for such a long time.
So they're not messing around here, so obviously things going to plan, at least for the Super Hot crew. As Evelyn taken away from Airwax, we talked about how well he's done so far and the massive kill participation that he's managed to pull in.
First pick here.
We'll see about that. I mean, Brown taken away as well. Jax obviously removed from the Copenhagen Wolves side, and seems like the Wolves with their last pick, their last ban, maybe having second thoughts, or would have expected maybe Brown to be left open.
Could be it was actually one of their ideas to be banned away, or they wanted Subaru to first pick it and take two strong picks for themselves. It's something we see very often, especially if these picks considered OP, where some teams just tunnel so hard, you just instant first pick them, leaving a lot of stuff open for the red side team here. However, very standard bans, to be honest, especially from Copenhagen Wolves, hitting on many of the strong picks and actually Kill being just instantly locked in. Selfie, of course, has shown many times he can farm on this champion forever. He said there. Even the CS record actually against Fnatic for this summer split on Kale here, so definitely a very strong pick for Super Hot crew.
Yeah, that final ban was Yasuo as well. We've seen what happens when you let Selfie have the Yasuo. Alliance in particular, I experienced that earlier on in the season. We also should mention that Kale has been featuring more and more on the top side of the map in the top lane, so we'll see if Mima goes for that, although we also have to say we've always preferred him on tanky bruiser champions.
It's his style of play at least. And the thing here for Super Hot crew, they ban away Evelyn. Normally when you see one jungle ban, multiple teams actually go just banning all the junglers away and then take from the second tie here. Of course you have Elise, Evelyn and Lee Sin as the top junglers. Super Hot crew just banned Evelyn, and because Copenhagen Wolves didn't respond with banning either Lee Sin or Elise, there was no pressure for Super Hot crew to